Welcome to the Deep Dive. This is where we take a whole stack of sources, landmark studies, biochemical guides, you name it, and we build you a shortcut to being incredibly well-informed. And our mission today is all about achieving peak cognitive performance and, maybe more importantly, brain longevity. We're really trying to move past the fuzzy wellness advice.
Right.
We're diving deep into the essential interconnected pillars that actually govern your cognitive health: nutrition, glucose control, and sleep.
And this dive is so critical because, well, the stakes are uniquely high for the brain. The consensus across all the sources we looked at is pretty sobering. Our brain cells, unlike most others in the body, they can't be replaced.
Right. You get one shot with the brain you're given.
Exactly. And worse, these critical cells often can't even, sound the alarm when their health starts to decline.
That's the terrifying part, isn't it? You don't feel it coming. You could be building up risk factors like inflammation or cellular waste for decades and be completely oblivious until the symptoms are, well, undeniable.
That's it, precisely. And you'll notice a lot of the research we're drawing on uses Alzheimer's as a kind of framework. The sources explain we should think of Alzheimer's research as a kind of scientific shorthand for the brain's most extreme response to what we give it. Scientists overwhelmingly agree it's heavily influenced by diet and lifestyle.
So the preventative strategies we're talking about here, they apply to all age-related cognitive decline, not just one disease.
Yes, we're optimizing the engine by studying its most catastrophic failure points. It's a powerful way to look at it.
Okay, so let's unpack this. We've got 3 big segments lined up for you. First, we'll hit the nutritional core, how you literally build and protect the tissue of your brain.
Then we'll tackle energy management, so metabolic health and some very specific glucose control hacks.
And finally, we'll get into the essential pillar of sleep, which the sources call the ultimate non-negotiable nighttime power cleanse.
Let's start with that foundation. The brain and diet. The conclusion here is it's just non-negotiable. The brain is arguably the organ most easily damaged by a consistently poor diet.
And it's so demanding. Consuming what, something like 20% of your body's energy?
That's right, 20% of total energy, but it's only 2% of your body's mass. It's incredibly hungry.
And the only way it gets that nourishment is through the food we eat. That kind of reframes every meal, doesn't it?
It really does. It's not just fuel, it's raw building material. Our brains literally are what we eat.
So what are the key architectural elements we need?
They fall into 3 main buckets: proteins, fats, and then carbohydrates or glucose. Let's start with proteins.
Okay.
So proteins from things like fish, meat, dairy, legumes, they're broken down into amino acids. And these amino acids are the physical backbone, but also the chemical signalers for our brain cells.
Can you give us a concrete example of that?
Sure, take tryptophan. It's an essential amino acid, meaning you have to get it from your diet every day. Your body just can't make it.
And that's the one that's a precursor for serotonin, right? For mood.
Exactly. It's crucial for mood, for executive function. But here's the nuance. Less than 10% of the tryptophan we consume is actually used to make that serotonin.
Oh, wow. Only 10%.
Yeah, the rest goes to other jobs, like protein synthesis. So this really emphasizes why you need regular daily consumption. You can't just load up on it one day.
So consistency is key. What's a good benchmark?
The sources suggest about 5 milligrams per kilogram of body weight daily. That ensures a steady supply to keep those brain pathways running smoothly.
Got it. Okay, let's talk about fats. We're so conditioned to think fat is bad, but for the brain, the right fats are essential.
They're absolutely vital. Our brain cells, our neurons are largely made of fat. They need constant replenishment.
So we're talking about omega-3s and omega-6s.
Right, from things like quality fish and nuts. They break down and get incorporated directly into the cell membranes of your neurons.
Making them more flexible and responsive, I assume?
Precisely. It improves communication between cells, supports the immune system, and basically shields the brain from damage.
And this is where the data gets really compelling. You mentioned that epidemiological studies point to omega-3s as maybe the single most critical nutrient against age-related cognitive decline.
The numbers are powerful. There was a landmark study on people aged 65 and older. It showed that those who ate low amounts of omega-3s, we're talking less than 1 gram a day, had a shocking 70% higher risk of developing Alzheimer's.
70%. Just from having less than 1 gram a day. That's an incredible correlation.
It is. And on the flip side, if participants consumed more than 2 grams a day, they were significantly less likely to develop dementia at all.
And it has an effect even if you don't have dementia, right?
Yes. The deficit is measurable even in healthy people. In dementia-free elderly, a diet poor in omega-3s was linked to accelerated brain shrinkage, especially in the hippocampus, the memory center.
And how much shrinkage are we talking about?
It was equivalent to 2 extra years of brain aging.
2 extra years, just from poor fat intake. That's the real immediate cost. So where do we get the good stuff? What are the gold standard sources?
You want whole, unadulterated foods. The focus should really be on wild-caught fish, especially fatty fish like salmon, sardines, mackerel, pastured eggs, organic grass-fed dairy. They have a much better fatty acid profile.
And I remember the sources pointing to one very specific ultimate brain food.
Yes, black caviar. Now, it's obviously expensive, but it's cited because it's just so incredibly dense in brain-healthy fats, antioxidants, and B vitamins.
And you don't need much of it.
Not at all. Just 2 to 3 teaspoons can meet your daily dose for some of these key nutrients. It just shows how powerful nutrient density can be.
Okay, on the flip side, what to avoid? This seems to be all about processed ingredients and bad cooking practices.
Absolutely. You have to become a meticulous label reader. Avoid processed foods with hidden trans fats. Watch for words like hydrogenated or partially hydrogenated oils, which you'll see as PHO.
PHO, so that's the one to look for.
Yes, it's a synthetic fat used to extend shelf life, and it's incredibly damaging to your cell membranes. Commercial meat, pork, and bacon are also generally not recommended because of their inflammatory profile.
And a quick but really critical warning on how we prepare the food. It's not just what you buy, it's the tools you use.
Exactly. Avoid aluminum cookware, avoid cooking plastics like those microwavable containers, and synthetic non-stick surfaces like Teflon.
Because Teflon contains PTFE.
Right, which is a toxic compound. These things can leach into your food. Better to stick with inert materials, stainless steel, glass, cast iron, traditional ceramic.
Okay, so that's the blueprint, the high-quality materials for the brain. Now let's talk about how the brain manages its energy, which means tackling metabolic health and specifically glucose control.
And if you connect this to the bigger picture, it's just startling how intertwined these things are. Unhealthy lifestyle choices are responsible for massive percentages of preventable diseases.
Things we all know about.
Right. 70% of strokes, 80% of cardiovascular disease, a full 90% of type 2 diabetes, all largely preventable.
And the brain link here is just staggering. Preventing these risk factors for heart disease and diabetes could prevent over a third of all Alzheimer's cases worldwide.
It's huge. And the core mechanism connecting them is how our bodies process glucose.
Refined sugar being the main villain here.
It's the primary aggressor. High amounts of refined white sugar just overwork the pancreas. That leads to insulin resistance, glucose builds up in the blood, and that causes systemic inflammation that directly damages the brain.
And what surprised me was the warning that this damage happens even at blood sugar levels that are considered normal in standard tests, below 120 milli-GDL.
That's a key insight. What the body might tolerate can still be way too high for our delicate, inflammation-sensitive brains. We need stable, high-quality glucose delivery, not these chaotic spikes.
So where do we find that quality glucose?
Well, ironically, some of the best natural sources are root vegetables we don't really think of as sweet. Things like onions, turnips, red beets, rutabaga. They're excellent.
And they come packaged with fiber.
Exactly. And vitamins and minerals. For instance, just one small red beet provides about 31% of the daily glucose you need, but delivered in a slow, steady way.
Okay, this is where we get to the really actionable part, the toolkit. The glucose goddess method focuses on 4 powerful, immediate hacks for steadying your energy.
Correct. And they work so well because they use food sequencing and timing to manage digestion. It's not just what you eat, but how.
Let's start with hack number 1, the savory breakfast. I think a lot of us are just programmed for a sweet breakfast. Cereal, juice, pastries.
The savory breakfast is the cornerstone of all of this. It has to be built around protein like Greek yogurt, eggs, nuts, and quality fat like butter, olive oil, or avocado.
And what's the mechanism? Why does that work so much better?
Protein and fat dramatically slow down how quickly your stomach empties. So you avoid that big insulin spike first thing in the morning, and that sets you up for steady energy all day. It's the difference between a huge spike from a fruit smoothie and a really steady, gentle curve from an omelet and avocado.
It's a total rethink.
Yeah.
Okay, hack number 2 is vinegar. This one sounds almost too simple to be true.
It sounds like an old wives' tale, I know, but the science is there. Just 1 tablespoon of vinegar, apple cider, white vinegar, either works in some water before a starchy meal can significantly reduce the glucose spike.
So how does it stop a spike from, say, pasta or potatoes?
The acetic acid in the vinegar temporarily slows down the enzymes that break down starches into glucose. It's like putting a little speed bump in your digestive tract, so the glucose enters your bloodstream much more slowly.
Fascinating.
Mm.
Okay, hack number 3 is the veggie starter. So eating a plate of fibrous vegetables before the main course.
Right. The fiber basically acts like a net in your stomach. It catches the carbohydrates and slows down their breakdown and absorption. We saw data where eating edamame before a sushi roll massively blunted the spike from the rice.
And it doesn't have to be complicated.
Not at all. A simple salad with arugula and balsamic, some artichokes, peas, olives, anything with fiber.
And the final hack, number 4, is the simplest of all. Movement.
Yes. Even just 10 minutes of movement right after a meal, a walk, cleaning up, some stretching, it's enormously helpful. When your muscles are active, they act like little vacuums, sucking up the glucose from your blood without needing as much insulin.
So it's a good habit after any meal, not just a carb-heavy one.
It should be a fundamental habit, absolutely.
Okay, let's shift to the final pillar, the one that affects literally every process we've just discussed. Sleep.
Right, and for so long, science really struggled to explain why we sleep. Some even called it an evolutionary mistake because of how vulnerable it makes us.
And yet, every species sleeps, which proves there have to be immense hidden benefits.
It has to outweigh the danger, yes. And we now understand the mechanisms through what's called the two-process model of sleep.
Okay, what are the 2 processes?
So first you have process S, which is the sleep drive. This is just a chemical pressure. A neurochemical called adenosine builds up all day while you're awake. The more it builds up, the more you want to sleep.
And sleep is what clears it out.
After about 8 hours of healthy sleep, that pressure is purged.
And this is where caffeine plays a tricky role, isn't it?
It's very tricky. Caffeine doesn't get rid of the adenosine, it just blocks the receptors so you don't feel the sleep pressure building up.
So the pressure's still there, you're just ignoring it.
Exactly. And when your liver finally breaks down that caffeine hours later, all that accumulated sleep pressure hits you at once. That's the classic, vicious caffeine crash.
Okay, so that's process S, the chemical pressure. What's the other part?
That's process C, the circadian rhythm. This is your internal biological clock. It's a tiny cluster of about 20,000 neurons that controls when you want to be awake and when you want to be asleep.
And it's governed by light and dark.
Primarily light and dark, yes, but also by other cues, like when you eat, when you exercise, even social interaction.
Which is why modern life, especially artificial light at night, is such an enemy of this system.
Absolutely. Artificial evening light, particularly that blue LED light from our screens, it suppresses and delays the release of melatonin. This can feel like sleep-onset insomnia. You're frustrated, you can't fall asleep, but your brain is just not biologically capable of starting the process until that light signal is gone.
So let's get into what actually happens during the sleep stages. What's the job of that deep NREM or slow wave sleep?
This is the deep physical and mental restoration phase. Your brain's electrical activity slows way down, about 10 times slower than when you're awake. And during this phase, a special system called the glymphatic system performs a nighttime power cleanse.
The brain's cleaning crew.
That's a great way to put it. It acts like plumbing, flushing out dangerous metabolic waste, especially beta amyloid proteins linked to Alzheimer's risk.
And how effective is it?
It's incredibly effective. There's a 10 to 20-fold increase in waste expulsion compared to when you're awake. So if you shortchange NREM sleep, you are literally leaving trash in your brain. It's also critical for cementing new memories.
And then there's REM sleep, the dreaming stage. That has a totally different job, more about creativity and emotion.
Yes. REM sleep is for higher order functions. It fosters creativity by crashing your new memories into the entire back catalog of your life's autobiography. This collision of information sparks new insight.
It's like a creative brainstorming session while you sleep.
Exactly. And the other critical job is emotional recalibration. It processes intense memories but strips away the stressful emotional charge. This helps you understand social signals better and just be more emotionally resilient the next day.
So, what's the real quantifiable cost when we skip this essential service? We're not just talking about feeling groggy.
No, we're talking about fundamental biological damage. Just restricting sleep to 6 hours a night for 1 week was found to distort the activity of over 700 genes.
711 genes. That's a staggering number.
It is. You're disrupting the function of nearly 10% of your entire functional genome just by losing a couple of hours of sleep a night.
What about our immune system, our physical defenses?
It cripples them. A sleep-restricted group had less than a 50% antibody reaction to a flu shot compared to a well-rested group. And critically, catch-up sleep can't fully salvage that deficit. The damage is done.
And I remember the performance and societal stats were just truly alarming.
They are. Cognitively, 6 nights of 4 hours of sleep causes impairment equal to being awake for 48 hours straight. Physically, time to exhaustion drops by up to 30%. But the societal impact is the scariest. Drowsy driving accidents now exceed those caused by alcohol.
And the professional impact, particularly in medicine, is a huge public safety concern.
It's a crisis. Medical residents on a 30-hour shift without sleep make 460% more diagnostic mistakes in the ICU. 1 in 5 residents will make a serious medical error due to sleeplessness.
It just shows that sleep isn't a personal choice. It's a non-negotiable requirement for basic competence and safety. So we've covered a lot of ground, but the main takeaway here seems to be the synergy. These 3 pillars, nutrition, glucose, and sleep, are all completely dependent on each other.
Absolutely. What's good for your heart exercise, a whole food diet, is fundamentally good for your brain. What you eat directly impacts your glucose, which regulates inflammation and your long-term cognitive risk.
And sleep ties it all together.
It does. Good sleep is the only way to clear out that toxic waste. It manages memory. And critically, it fights metabolic dysfunction. Sleep loss actually makes you hungrier and makes you crave high-calorie, sugary foods. It sabotages everything else you're trying to do.
So if you want our listener to walk away with one practical, affordable tip that connects all of this, what would it be?
Focus relentlessly on consuming whole, unadulterated foods. Favor fresh and organic when you can. The sources are clear that food processing, milling wheat, refining sugar strips food of its most valuable components.
Like B vitamins.
Exactly. B vitamins, which are crucial for energy, can be reduced by up to 50% during processing. So prioritizing fresh produce and whole ingredients is the single most powerful, accessible choice you can make.
That's great advice. It puts the focus back on quality. Okay, and here's a final provocative thought for you to reflect on from this deep dive, and it's built around the concept of epigenetics. While your DNA provides the initial blueprint and establishes some of your cognitive fate, the science is crystal clear that your lifestyle and behavioral choices, the nutrition, the glucose management, the sleep we've been talking about, they play a central role in turning those genes on or off.
Right.
This gives you immense daily power to influence your brain's fate and dramatically increase your chances of aging gracefully and cognitively intact. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive.